let's talk to Briar in Colorado. Briar, welcome to the show. Welcome. Good morning.
Hi, Dee and Eric. How are you guys?
We are doing amazing now that we're talking to you. What can we help you with today?
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. I just wanted to say thank you guys have been a huge instrument in my deconstruction over the last year. I really appreciate it. I'm an ex-Jehovah's Witness.
Wow, okay.
So there has been quite a big difference over the last year for me.
Oh, for sure.
And, yeah, it's huge. So the main thing is that in the Jehovah's Witnesses, they pretty much control every part of your everyday, including how you pray and what you think and what you do and what you say and how you dress and how you look. And I pretty much mindlessly went throughout my life. I never questioned anything very hard up until like literally a couple months before the last election, which I'm like, I just can't let this happen anymore. Like I have to start thinking for myself. And so I got completely out of the religion. I haven't actually technically done the whole disassociation thing because my sister lives with me and she's active.
Oh, good.
So that would cause some rifts in my home life. But I have, in secret, been listening to you guys constantly.
Yay! Nice.
And on top of that, I feel like everything in me wants to release that last bit of theism that has been holding me down. And the thing is I was like ready to do it, right? I was like, Jehovah's Witnesses are crazy. I'm so ready to get out of here.
Yeah.
And I wanted to change my entire life. I wanted to be more like you guys. I wanted to understand my brain better. And then a couple really weird things happened. And I feel like this is probably just a part of my indoctrination, but I feel like I was protected in my old life. By some force, because now I just have all of this energy coming at me, and I personally feel like over the last couple months through meditation and in my search, I feel like people have or I don't know if they would be technically deities. I feel like I have met people outside of my body in like a spirit world. Which sounds really strange to say out loud, including to me, because my entire life I didn't think that was possible. So the last year has been really, really intense. And I'm calling you guys because you guys are the first people that I ever heard the word epistemology from. So I'm trying to use good tools and have reasons for what I believe. And I just can't figure out why this is happening to me now.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, Briar, actually. And the first thing that I want to say to you before we jump into maybe picking apart some of these holdovers, some of these new things that you're grappling with, is that you are going through a huge thing right now. And there is absolutely no requirement for you to get rid of all of it right away. Okay, so I know there's a lot of people who out there say, oh, I became an atheist like that at the age of 8. I realized God didn't exist and boop, it all went out the window all at once. And for some people, that might be how it worked. But especially for somebody coming out of a cult, especially for somebody coming out of a place where every element of their life was influenced by this so directly, we do not have any expectations of you to ditch it all at once. And I want you to be gentle with yourself, because this is huge what you're doing. You're essentially recontextualizing every piece of your existence. And that's going to take time. And that's going to take a lot of grace that you show towards yourself.
Self-compassion.
Yes. So I want to start off by saying that if we can get even half of the way to one piece of understanding today, that is more than enough. Okay?
Yeah, it has been a journey. I really appreciate you guys are supporting me without even knowing it. Like, it has been a huge help just to be able to listen to you guys and get, a little bit of logic into my brain that has been mush for almost 30 years.
Well, as you break it down, it's not so much mush as it is, with the tools that you had at the time, it was the best that, you can come up with. And that's true, so give yourself some credit. It's not mush. It's just, as you get more information, then you get to apply that and grow from there.
Right.
Yeah. And I also have to add, I'm a third generation Jehovah's Witness.
Okay.
So I mean, my parents don't have these tools. My grandparents don't have these tools. It's definitely like breaking generational habits and trauma to just believe what you're told because that's what you're told.
That is, you are doing so much important work right now, and I just want to acknowledge that right off the bat.
Cheers.
As far as the things that are holding on, as far as these things that you might be encountering for the first time, can you maybe go into a little bit of specifics in terms of, you say you feel like you may have met some deity or some being outside of your own body. I know it feels weird to put words to it, especially on a call with people who, don't necessarily believe that, but I would love to hear a little bit more specifics around one of those incidents if we can kind of do bullet points of that.
Absolutely. I didn't believe it either. When it happened to me, I was pretty much silent for 3 days, where everybody was like, what is wrong with you? Are you okay? Like, I had friends and family reaching out because I just went off grid. I was like staring into the void. I could not figure out what had happened. I felt like, I was pretty much trying to convince myself it was just a dream. So what happened was one day I got home from work. It was around noon. It was a really stressful day. So I decided to do a mindfulness meditation that I've been doing pretty much. I've been having panic attacks since I was like 7 years old. So it's a technique I learned in therapy a long time ago. Let's sit, count your breath, let feelings come and go. Yeah. And I was sitting on my poof in my bedroom, meditating. And like I do pretty much every day, if not every other day. And I feel like I fell. I feel like I fell. I was disembodied. I did not see anything in particular, which is not even how my dreams are. My dreams are very realistic. Most of my dreams are like I wake up and I'm getting ready for work. Like my dreams are boring. And so it was a very weird otherworldly feeling where I could sense things around me, but I couldn't see anything. And then a personification, was in front of me, and they had ravens on their shoulders, and the ravens were like flapping as if we were going really fast somewhere, but it felt like we weren't moving. And it was a very fatherly / motherly, they, them kind of emotion that came over me, where I was just like, this person is like meeting me and telling me that we're okay, and it was no words involved, where this person just, we had an exchange of emotions and feelings and thoughts, almost as if we were meeting and had a 3-hour conversation with each other, like a first date.
With the Morgan. First date with the Morgan. I would be down with that.
Exactly. I was not attracted to the thing. I'm just saying. Like, it was like that first meeting where it was like, it was very strange.
Can I jump in a little bit?
And then, it's almost over.
Oh, go for it.
I woke up pretty much, and I was still sitting in the same spot I was sitting in, and it was dark outside, and 4 hours had passed. And it felt like maybe a couple minutes in this experience. So, and I've like never taken a drug in my life, hardly drank if ever, wasn't especially tired, and I was sitting up the entire time. So, it's really hard to explain, and I wish it didn't happen, because I feel like I would be on my way to like pretty much calling myself an atheist right now if that didn't happen.
But that's I think you'd be cheating yourself a little bit. By going through this experience, you are now able to, contextualize a lot more. I mean, it's the last thing, especially after coming out of being a J-dub, I wish that I didn't know this thing, this kind of idea of forbidden knowledge, shouldn't be something that you ever have to contend with again in the future. And the fact that, it complicates things, that's okay. It just gives you the chance to explore, and you're exploring it right now. So I think first is validity. Right? You have a valid experience. That doesn't mean that it necessarily happened in the real world, but that does mean that you are allowed. So I have an example I haven't given in a really long time. Briar, I'm gonna give you a little story, okay? So just follow this with me. It's kind of part of building your identity. We tell these stories to ourselves about ourselves, and it's what I believe is at the core of identity is these stories. And so imagine, Briar, that when you were in kindergarten, you were playing with the other kids, and you asked the teacher, if you can go to the restroom, and the teacher said no, wait until recess. And you said, I really got to go. They said no. And so you got angry, and you stood up, and you stared the teacher right in the eye, and you peed your pants. And that's a story you go, you know what? I'm not going to ever back down when somebody says something that's not okay. There's this view of truth to power. It's part of this story that you tell yourself. And then as an adult, you run into that teacher, and you tell them, oh, there's this thing that happened, and it stuck with me. It was so important. Well, according to your teacher and your parents and everyone else involved, it actually never happened. So now what? You have this story that you've told yourself that is incredibly important to the person that you've built up until this point. But what if it never happened? Right? I've lived a life where I was gaslit for a very long time, and I was told that I was stupid, and that I was forgetful, and that all of the important things, were just not in my head. And I believed it. It was a story that was told to me that I accepted. It wasn't true, but it became a part of my identity. These are important things that are stories, but they are still important. So the validity part of your story, right? What you got out of it, those things aren't gone with the wind. We just need to determine how much of it actually happened in reality. You know what I mean? So what a lot of people go through when they meditate, things like that, kind of just drifting into this in-between space happens. I have lost hours and hours for meditation. How about you, V?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I guess the first question I want to ask you as a skeptic is, Briar, if you found out that this wasn't true, that it never happened, would it be less meaningful to you?
That's a really good question. I don't think it would.
You don't think it would? That's fair.
Well, it did happen. We just don't know what it is yet, right?
Yeah.
Like, you did experience this thing, and it did impact you immensely, it sounds like. But we just don't know what it is, what the, where it exactly came from. But that doesn't mean that it didn't happen,
Yeah, it's just that element of what happened in the real world. And so we as skeptics, now our what we do is we want to go, okay, what are the other possible explanations? Let's stack them all together and find out, because the worst thing we can do is go, well, I can't think of anything better, and that therefore it has to be, my answer has to be the truth. So we start coming up with, okay, it could be this. What if it was this? What if it was that? And then we go from there. I know a lot of people who aren't used to that kind of skepticism will approach it and they'll go, oh my gosh, you're so mean. You just keep telling me that I'm wrong and that it was these other things. And it's like, no, that is how we apply skepticism. We think of what are any possible, things that could explain the phenomena, so that we can contextualize how likely the real thing was. The cookies stolen from the cookie jar. Okay, it could have been the cat, could have been the neighbor, could have been aliens, could have been Bigfoot,
probably
or it could have been V.
Rhino's kids.
Yeah, or it could have been V, right? Okay, well, I'm pretty sure it was aliens, but once I stack it up against the fact that I live with V now, by the way.
Yay!
It's likely V. V likely stole the cookies from the cookie jar. And so in this scenario, there are lots of things that happen in the brain. And that is definitely, something that could explain, right? Maybe having a lucid dream.
Also, it sounds, Briar, from the way you described your meditation practice, you said you've been doing it since you were 7?
Yeah.
So you're good at this by now. Like, this is not...
Exactly.
Yeah, a lot of people work their whole lives to get to a place where they can lose time and have these deep experiences during meditation. That's the goal. You may have just done the thing that you've been doing so well that you experienced something new. The goal is to have the kinds of experiences and leaving of the body in that perceptual way. For like a lot of people who have been doing this for years and years and years will talk about this kind of thing. So the fact that you're already putting yourself into this altered headspace after a very stressful day, you said, and you get home and you're in this headspace that you've gone back to for years and years of practice, and you have this experience, to me, I just want you to teach me your meditation skills. Like, that's what I want out of this conversation.
Well, and that's the main thing about it, is that I feel like it wasn't me. I feel like it's like, to this moment, you don't have to listen to you guys, I'm working on it, but I feel like it was somebody else introducing themselves to me. I feel like it was out of my control.
Understood. Can I ask you something else, Briar?
Of course.
So I guess I got to kind of explain it for it to make any sense. But often when I remember a thing, it starts off almost like an image out of focus and gains focus over time. The more I kind of think about it and really focus on what happened. And actually what I'm doing is filling in the details. And it becomes more and more clear. And so as time passes, a lot of supernaturally described events get more and more detailed. Do you think it's possible that the detail that you remember now may not have been detail that you would have described immediately following the event?
Yeah, I actually started a dream journal based on this experience.
Okay.
Because I was just like, I need to be able to look back and see what was going on that day. Did I get any sleep the night before? Things like that. I'm trying to think of it as logically as possible. But it's been almost a year now and nothing like that has happened again.
What I would challenge you to do is write down the details, as many details of the dream as you can. And then later on, when you have other details that, oh yeah, this happened too, you can look back and go, no, not actually. I'm adding things, because that's just something we as humans do. Every time you access a memory, you're changing it just a little bit. But
I really wish I would have written one at the time.
Well, I mean, it's totally okay. So how about this, Briar? What if you never found out? Then what? So
I don't know.
Well, so
I don't know how to reconcile what it is, just because I was so ready to let go. I have no reason to believe anything I have believed my entire life.
Then Briar,
because nothing had happened for me, and then this happens, and I feel like now I kind of have a reason to believe, even though now I don't want to.
Well, so whether you want to or not, the fact that you're wanting to follow the evidence where it leads is a really, really good place to be.
And honestly, just to kind of wrap this up, because we need to jump to other callers. Briar, I don't think that it was a deity myself. I don't think that you were visited by anybody other than possibly a part of your own brain. You know, if you've been talking to you in this conversation, you mentioned how you were a third generation J-dub. You had a set routine for everything. You described your brain as mush, which Eric rightfully pushed on a little bit. But essentially what happened is you had your neural pathways short-circuited in a lot of different ways, right? If I do this thing, this is what I think. If I do this thing comes next. And that really created kind of this loop in your brain that you were not able to escape, essentially. So maybe, and this is just another way of looking at this other person, this other feeling of this other being in your meditation, in your dream, in this place that you inhabited in your own head, is other parts of your brain saying, hey, we exist. You don't need to go from this is the way things are to this is the way things are. There can be that beautiful, magical gray area that you can explore and find fascination with.
So uncomfortable, though.
It really, really is.
It takes so much work to get there and be comfortable in that space of maybe I will never know. But like we say on this show, like we've said before, the best thing you can say in some situations as a skeptic is, I don't know. And it's so hard.
I honestly, I think that that is one of, or is a sign of serious integrity to be able to say, I don't know. To put it on the shelf and say, I may never know. This is on the shelf of unknowns. Doing that is amazing, Briar, because there are so many people who don't like it so much that they'd rather make up a reason than put it on that shelf of I don't know. But
for sure.
Instead of
thank you guys so much. I appreciate all the input, and it's going to be what I'm working on for the next couple weeks for sure.
Okay.
Cheers. Well,
call back if you come up with anything new. We would love to continue to talk to you as you start dissecting all of these various pieces of your life and your identity. It's huge, and you don't have to do that by yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you for calling in.
I appreciate you guys.
I appreciate you too. Thanks, Briar.